Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for being here. It's your spiritual big brother. So on this one, this is going to be another open notebook. And just as a reminder, these open notebooks, these are me just sharing my raw thoughts. Literally the way that it comes out of me and comes through me in my mind. I literally quickly capture it in a digital notepad or on paper if I've got a notebook and I'm just writing this stuff. So I don't polish this work. This doesn't go through editors. I don't put this through AI. You guys get this raw, and I'm just going to share them with you raw. So I may struggle even to get through this because I didn't change the punctuation. I didn't change the grammar. It's as raw can be. And so I'm going to share that with you. And then usually, unless I feel like I've done a good job of capturing it, I'll usually expand it a little bit. I'll talk about it a little bit, that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to keep us waiting. I'm going to jump right into this. But I got to be honest with you guys. Most of these are raw thoughts. It might be a little choppy for me to get through some of these because I tend to capture a lot of stuff in my notepads. It could be some type of something that I heard or a song or something like that I captured. So sometimes I've got to figure out what I want to share with you guys and what's just, random is all it is. It's nothing that's, in my opinion, worth sharing unless, you're into that type of music or you're into those types of movies or something. Sometimes I just capture that stuff and, I think a lot. So let's get on with it. Okay. So let's start with this. All right. This is what I said. Just act like God, or the world is able to see everything you can think or visualize on the inside, and you'll naturally clean up in there and try to understand yourself better and learn more about yourself. While no one can, that we're aware of, that doesn't change what it will do to your patterns of thinking and trying to be more honest inside and outside of yourself. It's just enough pressure to keep you dialed into a better frequency of thought, even when things aren't going your way or your moods change, or your mood changes. Okay, let's talk about this one a little bit. I say something kind of like really boldly here at the beginning, but I want to clarify that. And I think I did an okay job in there, but it can easily be taken out of context. And so let me apply a little bit more context. I say, just act like God. Now, depends on how you view God, right? I'm assuming that you view God as an unconditional parent. I think that's the best way, an unconditionally loving parent. That's the way I like to see God. Now, I do believe that that's one version of God. Just like you've got a certain version of your parents, you can have the scornful parent when you've done something wrong, and you can also have the unconditional loving one, the one that's just, no matter what, wants you to learn, cares most about you and everything like that. So I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like you can kind of dial into the God that you want to see. It's up to you which version you want to see. But just like, this is kind of maybe a morbid way to kind of think about that, but it fits. I'm sure that there's a better way to say it. I'm giving this stuff to you raw, so it's the first thought that came to my head. But if you can imagine, if your parents weren't there anymore, you would probably see some version of your parent. Something, some way that you felt about your parents or some way that you want to see your parents, after they're gone. And that's kind of the thing that keeps kind of rewinding in your head anytime you think about that person. That's kind of what I'm suggesting here about God. There's a version of God that, it's up to you to dial into. So that's what I mean. Act like that God. Act like that version of God here. Or pretend like God's watching you. There's a couple different ways you can do this. But what it's really going to do for you is apply just enough pressure on you that you make the right decisions, that you're thinking, that you're a little bit conscious out here and aware. And those are the things that are going to help you ultimately, right? Think about all the baggage that happens when you're making the wrong decisions. You feel guilty, you feel ashamed, at least for a while. And then after a while, sometimes people just get sick of those games, of those feelings in their heads. And then maybe they just numb out and they just kind of run away from their, that type of stuff, or doing the inner work and the reflective stuff and the processes. So what I'm kind of trying to suggest is this is a good way to kind of clean up some things on the inside. Pretend like somebody's watching you. You know what I mean? Maybe not like the peeping Tom guy or something like that. That's a little creepy, right? But I'm saying something that has your best interests in mind, something that cares about you, something that won't judge you, but also wants you to do better, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what I'm saying here. And when I say act like God, I mean like, if that's the way that you visualize God as some unconditional parent, and sometimes they've got to make some hard decisions, or sometimes there's got to be some judgment made so that you learn, or that you develop and you learn a lesson, you gain some experience. You know, if a situation calls for that, there is some discernment involved there too. But I'd say largely, most of the time, you should be thinking about it in a certain way and acting a certain way. That's my own opinion. And I'm sure that there is maybe some flaws in that. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I've always kind of used something like this. I've always liked to see my life as a play, but it's real. And you get to be the superhero. You get to be the main character, and you get to decide, you know, within the realm of what's possible. You know, you can't just go out there and do anything you want whatsoever. I mean, maybe you can, but, you know, there's maybe some consequences to be had if you do, right? So you got to kind of be wise. You got to be, you got to think about what that really means. And you got to think about where you are right now in your life. That's always been hard for me. I'm a thinker. So I like to think ahead. I like to plan. And I also like to think about the past. I like to reflect. I like to process things, things that happened to me, things that maybe are holding me back, or even some of the good stuff too. You know what I mean? I like to think. So that's what I was trying to say here. Let's move on to the next one. I think you kind of hear what I'm saying there. Most things you show others bounces around within them until they can release it. Rights or wrongs become something that they feel and sometimes don't understand. Like a crystal taking on light or dark. I'm not sure what I was trying to say there. Taking on light or dark. I want to say that was probably energies that have a feeling and a visual memory attached. Sometimes it just understood. Boy, I should have went through this one. And I'm just going to skip that. And the beam of light, light or dark, needs to be released in one form or another. Light in through the eyes, and then into the body or crystal, and it keeps bouncing around as a memory until it can be released with a similar action or feeling back into the world. So fill others with good actions and feelings and beams of light so they can re-release their own back into the world. It's like paying it forward, but with actions that ripple or multiply. So be thoughtful in your own actions. Okay, I know that was a little bit choppy in there. I think that there's a good idea behind all of this. I must not have jotted this down very good, but what I was really trying to say here is when you share feelings or your voice or you're talking to other people or you're sharing ideas, and it doesn't matter if your feelings are good or bad or whatever, right? There's a range of things. Some people can be angry and say really mean, hurtful things, and then some people can say really loving and great things. But those are the kind of things that I think people ingest. In this way, I kind of framed it in light coming through your eyes and bouncing around within your body like a crystal. And I like thinking of it that way. But I mean, we could put the human flesh on that and you can see it from a different way. Think of your eyes like the camera, right? Like, and it's projecting light into your mind and your consciousness and your soul, and things that you see or feel too, because we hear things through our ears. So a combination of all that stuff and the way that we visualize things and the way that we feel the world and the way that things kind of we feel, those things tend to get trapped inside of us, especially when there's feelings involved, right? Imagine a loved one telling you that they love you and it feels good, right? We feel that bouncing around in there. That's good energy. That's light energy. And it stays in there, bouncing around until you return that energy back out in the world. And you could put that however you want, right? It's unique how you express that back into the world. Somebody brings it into you, and then you bring it back out. And I'm doing that right now. I'm sharing love with you guys right now, and I am sharing my voice and some of my thoughts and such like that. So I am thus returning what somebody brought into me, back into the world for you guys. And it's just, in my opinion, it's just a process like that. And I feel like we're a vessel. So of course we can only take on so much. So keep your vessel clean, but it takes on both dark and light energies. That's what I found. That's the way I like to see it, I guess. So, I mean, like, you've only got so much capacity for good and bad energies. So if you keep taking on negative energies, there's not much room for love or anything else in there. So, and I will say this much. You do not have to return anger to other people. You don't have to return it on inanimate objects. But what works for me, when I am just angry or irritated or frustrated, I will go just talk to myself. I will find an isolated spot where I'm by myself and I'll just talk out loud about it. I'll just be like, man, I've had a really rough week. I may say some curse words. I try to refrain from saying those, but just know, people, you know, I am human. I'm very human. I'm very raw. So once in a while you may hear me doing some cursing, but I will use that wisely. I will never try to do that just to act cool or something like that. I'll say it when I think it's necessary. But that being said, when I'm angry, which I try to not be angry on the camera, but when I am angry, I will definitely express myself very vocally. I will be very articulate, and I'll say it for what it is. And I will try to release that energy just out into the world, not to other people, you know, not to creatures. I won't do that to my animals or something like that. They might catch an earful if they're in the other room or something like that, but it won't ever be directed at them. So that's kind of what I'm saying here. Find your own ways to release the necessary energy back out into the world and work on it. You know what I mean? You need to free up that inside, that inner world for you, so that you have a good container to take on the things that really matter to you and the things that you care about. And also to be able to reciprocate that and push it back out into the world. Okay, I think you guys kind of get what I'm saying there. Let me take a sip of this coffee and we'll get right into it. Oh boy, and I'm scanning ahead on this next one. This is going to be some hot water for some people. I'm aware of that. I'm going to share this thought anyways, and I'll admit it. I think that there might have been a better way. Maybe I could share this. So I'm going to have to do a good job of expanding on it, but I'm going to try to do it just as it is here. Just let me get a little swig of this right here. Ooh, that's good stuff. It's a little chilly right now, but that's okay. Okay, let's get on with it. Without further ado, some people may or may not, well, I say it right in the beginning. Okay, may or may not like this, but I keep seeing all these commercials for animals, for the medical field, and for the research and such like that, you know, asking us, help us. And they're like, we want a handout. This place wants a handout. I used to feel bad and sorry, and I donate too. Even in fast food or grocery chains, when they ask if you want to donate for education or this, that, or the other, here's the truth that no one wants to hear. Take care of yourself, your local community, and friends and families and pets first. And if you have any extra, then give it to those other places. If everyone does that, then everyone can help everyone based on where they are and what problems exist, especially around them. I get tired of seeing the animal commercials, or just donate $20 a month for this, that, and the other. Just like if someone in my family or neighborhood or community needed the community's help, or my loved one needed my help, that's something I want to be able to help with. But someone on the other side of the world or on the other side of the state that I've never met, or animals that were deserted by their owners or couldn't be afforded, that's not my problem. And that's not your problem either. That's someone else's. I've got enough to take care of directly in my own life. And I think if everyone started doing that for what matters to them and their local communities, then that would be what's best for everybody. And that also says, let them deal with their problems, just like we need to deal with ours. That place across the world, that place across the state, they have their own problems. Let their people and communities and families take care of them, and you take care of yours. This whole thought here has taken me 25 to 30 years to develop it into what you're hearing right now. And it's been really hard to find the words to express that well and to really feel it, feel like that's the right thing. And I'd like to go into some detail here to kind of clarify that, because I don't want that to sound heartless. I genuinely care deeply about other people, about my family, about the things around me, the pets that I have, my friends, even the local community too. But when we see some of these commercials, I mean, they just tug at our heartstrings. They make us feel like we're the reason for that. Like we're the ones that are the criminals out here. Like we did something to that person. And I'm even going to say it. Even some of the people that are, I don't want to get into the details, because I know some people out there, it's just going to rub them wrong, or they're going through something, or they might even be the ones that are requesting that larger body of help. And I get that, but there's so many people out there that just can't afford it. I mean, we don't have enough to give. You know what I'm saying? We give so much, and all these places just keep asking for more. And I care about those people, but I need people to kind of dial it in for yourselves. Take care of the things that matter most to you, that are most local. Because when you start giving that out to everything, you start with yourself, and then you try giving that to your family, you try giving that to your loved ones and your friends, you start giving that back to the church and the community and local education and other things. And then you've also got people that are across the other side of the world asking you to give. And then you've got people that are across your own state or a state over, or even on the other side of your country or whatever. Everybody keeps asking for more. You gotta know when to stop, and you gotta know when you're not serving yourself anymore, the people that you matter. Let me put this into perspective for you. Imagine that maybe right now in your life, everything's kind of handled, everything's going kind of smooth, and you've got a little extra money. So you end up giving that away to places that maybe aren't necessarily serving you the way that they should be serving you. Or maybe they're not directly where you are right now in your life, right? Now imagine you've been doing that over the years rather than trying to save up a little bit for yourself, for your loved ones, for when something happens to you or to a loved one. Let's say one of your loved ones all of a sudden falls with cancer, right? Well, what happens then? How can you afford to help them? And I get it. You may need one day the help of one of those organizations or something like that. I get it. There's a line to be drawn. But I think when you give it all away, I don't think there's anything left for you. So keep that in mind. I think that there's boundaries. I still donate to some of these places too. But what I've done is I've managed to kind of find my boundaries, find my limits without just giving it all away, right? Without thinking, I have a certain percentage of what I like to donate and give away to other communities, or give away to things that I care about, or causes, or anything like that. So I'm not suggesting that you don't do it, but I'm just suggesting that you be wise about the way that you do it, and make sure that you're not cutting yourself short and the people that you really care about around you first. So that's what I got on that. I felt like that needed to be expanded. Okay, let's move on. Let me see what we got here. Okay, I think I may have mentioned this one before, but maybe I'm saying it in a slightly different way that'll help people, and maybe it's more refined too. So let's talk about bad habits and the accumulation effect. Doing one thing isn't so bad. Doing a few probably isn't either. But what happens is it slowly erodes our willpower, and it does so subtly. Missing a healthy meal here, forgetting you shouldn't be smoking whatever it is you're smoking, not working out, saying you'll do this, and not doing that. These will keep you perpetually and continually moving towards a low resonating version of yourself, beta version maybe. Discipline and responsibility are so important in holding yourself accountable. I'm going through what I believe is my final season now of cleanup in my life. And it all started 10 years ago when I needed to prove a point. and I realized how far I fell from one place of wisdom and beauty and tempered power. I was segueing that into something. I let me remind myself on that one, and I did a pretty good job there because I remember where I was going with this. Let me first talk about the accumulation effect, and then I want to share a story with you guys. And that's not on paper, but it's a good story, a good lesson, and it's worth sharing because that's part of what I was saying when I said 10 years ago. That's when all this stuff started. So I'll share the story of where it started, and what got me thinking more like this and actually doing this and figuring that out. It's good to hear these things too. Okay, but let's talk about it. So, bad habits. Man, we probably all have them, right? There's something that we know we should be doing and we're not. The problem is that I've found is that the longer you know you should change something and the longer you continue to do it anyways, without at least being more flexible, like you don't have to just drop the bad habit cold, in my opinion. I mean, it depends on the habit too, right? Quality of the habit. If you're addicted to some really bad substance, you may want to figure out how to drop that quickly or how to, make some good decisions that are going to slowly, hopefully rapidly help you quickly remove that habit or make it not so controlling or taking over your life. But there are many regular habits, like maybe just a diet. And of course, again, quality of diet. Maybe you're just all fast food, all processed foods. That's probably a problem. You're going to want to clean that up. But I'm assuming this from kind of like a normal person that just has some bad habits that, they collect over time. Those are the types of things that if you're not careful, they can start overflowing and creating more bad habits. Less willpower for you to say no when other things that maybe have nothing to do with your diet. Maybe your diet's where it started, but then, the fact that you're not doing a good job on that, you kind of wear away at your own willpower. And, we were able to do it. I have somebody pulling in here, so I'm kind of just staring, seeing what's going on here. In case you're wondering what I'm dazing off here, somebody else in the park with me today. I'm kind of surprised. I didn't share this, but it is Christmas, so Merry Christmas to anybody that celebrates that, or just Happy Holidays for everybody else. Maybe I should have been wearing a Santa hat or something here. So I'm just surprised that anybody's here is all. Okay, but I think I kind of explained the accumulation effects, and I was saying about how kind of like it deteriorates or overflows into other things. So be careful, because even though you may only have one bad habit and maybe you're moderating that or keeping that kind of under control, over time, your willpower kind of sees like where you're at, your confidence to be able to say no to things. It slowly kind of fades over time. So you got to watch out for that. It's important that you do at least manage some of your bad habits. And what I mean by that is make it moderation, fit it in your schedule. Some bad habits or pleasures are okay, but they can't run your life. They can't control you. That's a big spiritual, something that I think people kind of forget about, or maybe, they don't realize, what it can do. It can destroy your life. It can really overflow and burden into many other things. So just be careful with that. I'm sure we'll expand on that a little bit more in the future. And there's a couple different pieces there that we'll probably talk more about and elaborate more on. Okay. Oh yeah, right. Let's talk about what happened 10 years ago. I won't use any names for sure, but I want to talk about an experience that I had that really changed my life, got me going in the right direction officially. And I feel like I was always heading in the right direction for the most part, but this especially really made me take a second look at everything I was doing, the things that I was lying to myself about, like my ego was getting in the way and coddling me on some things that I needed to address and I needed to get to. And I think we all have those. And at some point, you're going to need something in your life that just makes you flip that switch and be like, you really got to start taking some things seriously and really start looking at things. And this was mine. So I was dating somebody and we were in a relationship for a while and things were going good, but then they were kind of this on and off. We were on the rocks for a bit, and it was both of us, if we would both be honest about it. But what ended up happening was I wanted to prove a point. And this was a point that costed me a lot of money. It ended up being about $150,000. And the reason that I did that is because the other person, I wanted to prove them wrong. Our relationship was falling apart and we weren't going to be able to save it. I already knew that before I ever made this decision. Or at least I was kind of like, well, maybe I can save it. Maybe there was a small ounce, but for the most part, I was pretty confident that it probably wasn't saving. So the other person had mentioned that they wanted privacy. I was still living at home at this point. And, I was living with other people, other roommates. And, we didn't have privacy. And they were right about that. I wanted to be able to have some privacy. But I also wanted to prove a point. And that they were just saying that. I knew that they didn't mean that. I knew that that wasn't single-handedly the reason that this was going to all of a sudden start working out for us. So we went out looking for houses, and I ended up buying one. And after I bought it, before we even got through the whole contract or anything like that, they bailed out, that was done. The relationship was over, and I was here with a house that was 50-50. I bought it with her in mind, and I got it for the both of us. So I wasn't even happy necessarily with the house. I loved the house. It looked great. But I only bought it because I wanted to prove a point. And so that was a $150,000 lesson. That stung like hell, man. I am telling you, the after fact and me realizing that after I was not stuck, but with a house now and nobody to share it with, I started thinking really hard. I'm like, man, I was like, can you believe you just did that to prove a point? And I really had to think about that. I did get fortunate. There was a silver lining to that. I learned the lesson, and I think God will reward you when you learn big lessons like that and you actually seek to change yourself and that kind of stuff. So I ended up renting that out for a while because I couldn't afford it. I actually couldn't even afford it when I got it. And I ended up renting it, so that was good. And then I ended up selling it. And I did it when the market was up. I got lucky, but I think God was looking out for me. The timing lined up, and I learned my lesson. And I ended up making some money off that house after I sold it. So it was kind of a good lesson. It changed my whole life, got me thinking about this kind of stuff that I'm talking about. And probably the bigger lesson is not lying to myself, and also not trying to prove a point. Forget about it. If you know better, trust your instincts, trust your gut feelings. Listen to that, especially if it repeats. Maybe the first time you kind of get this little feeling inside you, maybe pay attention more, maybe keep it in the back of your mind. But if you keep getting those signals from some situation or experience or relationship that you're going through, and I'm not a relationship expert by any means, but pay attention. And eventually, if you're feeling that way, I'm telling you, make the right decision. It'll only save you. Okay, let's move on. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, not that. Okay, not that. Give me just a second. Let's take a moment to reflect here and just think. So just hang with me. I'm gonna scan ahead and make sure that this isn't one of those random things, or if this is something I want to share. Let me just see here. Right, let's pick it up here. Let's see what we're at here. We're at about 30 minutes. Boy, there is a lot I want to share with you guys too. So I'm either going to have to speed up, or else I'm going to have to break this up into many different videos. Well, I'd hate to just rush through this, so we might have to break this up into multiple videos. Okay, but let's do this. Let me pick up here. There will be days where you need to remain open and apply yourself for clarity, rather than your own selfish pursuits or your own progress and production. That's been a hard one for me. I, and people like me, don't like to waste days being unproductive. Every day is an opportunity. Sometimes it's needed in other parts of your life, or even loved ones that are going through something, and it may require your energy, your creativity, and your focus there, and the ability to allow and be open to rationalize and assist when needed, especially if it's a loved one going through a hard time and may not be able to think calmly and clearly for themselves. It's really hard sometimes to know when, but I believe reality will force or guide you or nudge you in minor nudges or inconveniences, or maybe even signs or symbols or obstructions, things in your path, in your way, that help you stop focusing on the things that aren't as important for this day or week, and help nudge you towards the help that is needed from you. I've struggled with this. Wanting to control my life and future too much, and forgetting to help and serve my loved ones when they need it most. That reality hurts, but it's also liberating and healing when you see it. So I say, pay more attention. Trust that when you're being nudged, inconvenienced, or technical errors keep coming up when you know they shouldn't be, or the internet's down, or whatever, that you take a moment to really think about what's important for that day, and be ready to be flexible and shift gears and apply your focus and energy to where it's really needed. That will be hard for some of you. It was hard for me, like it was for me. But it's important and necessary because the people struggling around you need you too. And life will help teach you when to shift gears as long as you're paying attention and aware and willing. The reward is a deeper connection to yourself, to your loved ones, and God or the source if you believe in it, and even a bunch of hidden ones that you will sense and feel that will add confidence and talents and abilities that sometimes you won't even be able to articulate, but appreciate. It's worth the growth and helping those you love beyond the service to them. Believe me on that. Let's talk about this one just for a little bit. This one has been especially true to me in this last season. My brother has been going through a heavy struggle for months, and it has been emotionally taxing on me. And there's been times where, while I'm very productive, I like to keep up with the things that that I'm working on, especially for you guys, the content and everything like that. But there are times where even when you're doing all of that, and you're focused and you're trying to be a master of your craft or whatever it is that you're doing, and if that sounds like you, or even a little bit like you, then you're going to have some times that you're not going to realize that other people around you really need you. You're going to assume that everything else kind of has it handled, and you chip in because you feel like it's necessary and you're there for people. But there are times where people around you are legitimately crying out to you, and maybe they're not saying it in plain English, maybe they're not saying it in a way that you can really understand, or a way that really screams, hey, I really need your help, because not everybody's great at expressing that, right? We're in like a society where people feel like it's okay to be numb, or to be a man, or be a woman, and just have to carry your own weight and your own struggles, and hey, that's your problem, you deal with it. And believe me, I understand that. I've dealt with that myself, and I've seen that in other people too, and I get it. I think that it's just a byproduct of culture, and it's kind of a sad one when you really think about it, because people should be able to express themselves and feel like they can get help from other people. I really believe that. And it shouldn't just be exclusive to your family. And sometimes people even get cheated with their family. Their family's not even out for their best interests. And that stings. I mean, then yeah, you're forced to go seek that out in the world and hope people will do that. Sometimes that's a blessing in disguise too, because people that have that love at home sometimes are protected by that, and never go out in the world and know how to ask how to get help, or learn that there are places where you can seek help and find help and get that. So remember, I mean, there's a silver lining for wherever you are, no matter how hard it is for you or anybody else. So keep that in mind. But that's what I got on that one. So be open, be receptive. If you're like me, and maybe some people are naturally good at just helping everybody else and just being there all the time for everybody else. But if you're a creator, or you're somebody with big ambitions, or anything like that, or maybe you like to spend time in your thoughts or spirituality. Sometimes you tend to be isolated a little bit or whatever, and I think that there's a place for that in everybody's life. At some point, you should do these things, whether or not it's planning for your own future. You need space sometimes, and you need to go reflect or think. So at some point, I'm sure that this kind of applies to everybody, but especially true to those people that you understand what I'm talking about. So I'm not saying that you should be on high alert 24/7, but be ready when things start kind of falling apart and people actually start to need you, and maybe you don't, you're like, hey, you deal with it on your own, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. I got stuff I got to work on over here. This is very important to me in my life and where I want to be in the future. That's the kind of stuff I'm saying. Hey, you can do that. But sometimes you got to switch it off too and help others. It's so important to them. It's so important to you too. One day you'll regret that. Kind of like one of the things we were talking about with, with the thing with my father, where I opened it up with that. Or was that that was probably on my ChatGPT. Well, check that video out. I'll probably put that in the description, or just know to check that one out. That's one of my first ChatGPT talks about my father, and about not wishing I was, or had some regrets, wishing I was there for him more when I was grieving him after he passed on. So I kind of talked about that in another way, but this, you keep getting these lessons in your life, and it becomes easier and easier the more you keep paying attention, becoming more aware. So just watch out for that, is all I'm really trying to say here. Okay. All right. I'm thinking if I want to share this one or not. I don't know if this one's... I feel like this is one that I've talked about before. I'm not sure. Well, I'll share it anyways. Worst case scenario, I got to clip this out if it doesn't make any sense later, or if I've already shared it or something and I'm just repeating. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going. Here's, in vitro, what I think most people's evolutions of becoming looks like for probably a majority of people, generally speaking, with the exception of some really traumatic or uncontrollable, unavoidable life circumstances. But also keep in mind, I think everyone to an extent has them early on, to some extent. And if not, they will go through it at some point, and anyone that doesn't would be lucky enough to live a life without them. So, let's get into that. Early life should look kind of like gaining experience, learning who you are and who you aren't, forming beliefs and language, courage, and other things like that. At some point, you'll grow and become a glimpse of your true potential. Eventually, you'll hit a peak where growth is hard, or you hit a real wall and others weren't able to help you get past it or find a solution. And you may begin to see life differently at that point and not see it as magical as you did while you were growing and learning, and it felt never ending. That's that childhood wonder everybody talks about. When you're early on, you don't understand the world that well, and everything's an experience and feels new. Eventually you get to a point where you peak on that. And eventually you start following a pathway, and eventually you're going to hit a ceiling, or it's going to feel like a ceiling. It's going to be more demanding of you. That's what I'm talking about here. This is natural for most. And I think early on, we usually bounce into something else and learn and grow, or simply stop growing and refining what we do know, and start considering about what life really looks like. So what I'm saying by that is, when you hit that peak or you hit that ceiling on something that you love, you end up probably bouncing into something else because it gets hard, it gets uncomfortable, and you're like, well, you know what? I haven't experienced enough of the world. Let me check something else out. That kind of thing. That's what I mean by that. We then begin to experience the actual world more independently, without school or your family. We deep our feet into the public and global. We dip. I think that's supposed to be dip. We dip our feet into the public. Yeah, that's what that was supposed to be. I don't know why I changed that to that. Okay. Public, let's say it again. Sorry. We dip our feet into the public and global spheres, and we begin failing and learning and experiencing Some of us begin to be let down more often, and we lose some hope and trust in ourselves and the world. That's supposed to happen, but it's never supposed to completely keep you down. It's meant to teach you and help you. Suffering creates pressure that results in growth, and growth is now hard-earned, and eventually the world will crush you if you decide to keep trying to find your purpose or achieve it. I say that kind of rough, but I've talked about this quite a bit. Hopefully some people can kind of see that when I say crush you, it's going to open you up. It's going to make you vulnerable. It's going to split you open. It's going to crack you open in a good way, and you're supposed to learn from it. But sometimes it's so heavy and hard, we get consumed in our emotions, we get consumed in the suffering, and we don't learn what it's actually supposed to teach us, or we don't become wiser after it happens to us. That's what I'm getting at there. Okay, especially if it's a big one. You will be tested in spirals that keep leveling up to make sure you've learned the lesson and can handle it. When you are under large amounts of pressure or stress, it will keep getting harder until it breaks you. And then that's when you know your worth and value, and you've removed all the dead growth and weight and people and disillusions that were holding you back. And you're left with what really matters, and you've removed the emotional and spiritual, relational, physical, mental, and other dead weights. This is a long and hard process, and you just need to keep trying. Trying is doing and failing and learning. Never stop trying and learning. I know some people look at failing as a bad thing, as like, hey, I've hit my limits. Keep that in mind. Learning is, or trying is doing. Failing is doing. Learn from your failures and keep trying. Eventually the world, you'll see, was teaching you how to become your true highest self. When you stopped running from your fears and problems, but instead learned from them and pushed through them, that's where happiness lies. In the process, in the becoming, and in the living and being and the trust and finding God, if you believe in that, and purpose, and then living in it and helping others along the way. I love that. I really do love that. I think I did a pretty good job of kind of explaining what happens. And I'll say this much: when you hit that ceiling or whatever I talked about, or that point where like things start to become less of that childhood wonder where everything's just new and wow, this is so cool, how does this work, and I don't understand this, oh, that makes sense, and that's kind of that childhood wonder that we all talk about. When you get to that point where that kind of caps out, and then you get into the real world, and let's call it at the age of 35, that's just the way that I think I've seen it most. That's when you get that midlife crisis that hits, and it's really hard, it's emotional. That's the thing that will break you open to help let the light inside. That huge emotional burden and physical, and I'm tired and I don't want to do this anymore. But when when you've really hit your limits. Some of us like to just remain in our comfort for where they're at, and the comfort's real simple and it's easy, and we like life like that, right? But what I mean is when you hit your physical, emotional, spiritual limits, I mean you have been tested, you have been broken. I mean when you're on the ground crying for God, why are you doing this to me? Please, there's tears running down, I can't handle anymore, you're weeping. I'm talking about that. When you hit that limit, that's when you really start to grow. Those are the times that create the pressure that will renew you, allow you to hold whatever it is you're trying to become, whatever it is you're looking to do with your life. Those are the times that are going to kind of crack you open and help you be able to hold that more, right? You've been completely broken, only so you can get fixed and repaired and grow from it and heal. That's what's supposed to happen. Some people get stuck in that suffering. Some people don't look at that as, I'm supposed to move on from this. They get so bitter about it that they get stuck rather than growing and learning the lesson and processing it. That's why, in my opinion, reflection on traumas or anything that have happened to you or anything that's created discomfort, maybe you've been embarrassed, humiliated, maybe you had your heart broken, maybe somebody really that you trusted let you down big time, maybe you've seen some truth that, and it hurts you so badly. Those are the kind of stuff you want to sit down and process. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about here. Okay, let's move on. Let's see. Here's one I think is based on limiting beliefs. Telling something or telling someone what they are is dangerous. It can make a person confined to a prison because of something you said. You call somebody stupid one time, and they may walk around their entire life actually believing that. Everyone hopes the other person understands that they just mean for that moment in time, or that instance, or that second, that they were acting stupid, and that they don't actually mean that. That person is stupid all the time. So I probably could have said that a little bit better towards the end there, but what I'm saying is sometimes we say some things that we say it in a way that it's quick. We're just trying to say it. We want to pass it on. We want to show that we're mad. And so maybe we'll say, hey, you are stupid or something like that. And we say that to somebody that we love or something like that just to show that we're frustrated, right? Now, if another person hears that and actually believes that, and that like affects them in some way, that can turn into a limiting belief for them. And so I think you just need to be more careful about that kind of stuff. We all have them too, right? We bury them down, especially when it's from a loved one or somebody that we care about or we look up to or anything like that. And they say something like that to us. Most of the time that I've found, if you reframe that a little bit and you're just like, hey, you're being stupid right now. That doesn't mean you're stupid all the time, but right now, you're being a little stupid. See, when you say it that way, that gives a person permission to move on and realize that at this moment in time, yeah, maybe I am being a little stupid right now. Yeah, I've been that way. I've been ignorant. I've been not knowing. We all are, right? That happens. But sometimes when we say it or we repeatedly say it and we say, you are stupid, if a person believes that, that turns into their being. That turns into one of their lines of, how intelligent am I as a person? How smart am I? When it comes to times in their life where they need to be smart or they need to do things, they might not come right to their head and remember that moment where you said, hey, you are stupid, but they'll feel that when they need to be smart. And that becomes a limit for them. They won't be able to, act smart, even though maybe they are smarter than they think they are. So all I'm saying is just be careful. The way that you say things matter. And the way that you affect people, you may not realize what you're doing. So just keep that in mind. I have found that to be very, very true. And I have found that to be something that people do, even if they're really good people and good intentions. They say things in a certain way, and they say it when they're really angry, and sometimes that sticks on other people. And it'll really limit them years down the road, maybe not right away. And you would hope that a person would go and process that and realize everything I'm saying right now about this, that, hey, I didn't mean you're that person all the time. I meant just, you did something that, you shouldn't have done. And it felt pretty obvious to me that you shouldn't have done it. I thought you would have known better, so you hear what I'm saying on that? That's kind of what I was going with that. Okay. Here's just a quick one-liner. The truth isn't The truth is always unpopular when it isn't delivered fluffy. I have found that to be very true. You know, if you don't dress it up and make it look nice and everything like that, society, culture, all that, they don't like it. They just don't, you know? When you get the raw truth or the raw honesty, even when it hurts maybe a little bit, or maybe when, you know, it bothers us a little bit on the inside, it's unpopular. It just is. And, you know, that's why people like me deliver it anyway sometimes. And I try to make it with examples and feelings and metaphors so that you take it home without hitting it. I don't make it fluffy, but I definitely make it attainable. I make it so that you can digest it a little bit better. And that's just from many years of me working through my own struggles, truths, spiritual growth, physical, becoming my true highest self. There's a lot of things that get in the way of that. And that's what I'm really trying to give back to everybody here on the channel. Okay. Let me think here. Do I want to keep going? Boy, I got so much here. Boy, I love doing this. I see we're getting close. Maybe I'll share one more and then yeah, we'll go from there. So let me share one more. Okay, let me just take a sip here. Why don't you guys just hang with me for a second here? Nothing left there. No. My energy. I'm just kidding. All right. I know I can't take it with me, but I do like admiring it. As much as I admire nature and raw beauty, I love refined and perfected beauty. I think that's a paradox people haven't really called out or talked about before. Or if they have, they don't do it now that I'm aware of. Or at least I've never come across it. I like buying expensive things to admire them, but I also am able to detach from them too. It's like enjoying looking at a painting or listening to music or a great movie, watching it. You just appreciate it for what it is, not because you want to feel better than others, but for its beauty. And I think we get lost in the materialism these days. And I think that's what I'm really calling out here, is that for people that are spiritual like me, that just attach to the thoughts of materialism too gung-ho, too hard, you go too far on one side of the spectrum, I'm kind of trying to level that playing field for everybody. And I think I've talked about this one before, but I thought that it was worth, I guess, a little bit more clarity and me kind of saying it again here for people. I feel like, I like to think of it this way. I have a lot of respect and love for raw beauty and nature. Going out in the world, seeing the way that God and nature has created things that we didn't touch, right? We had nothing to do with. I love seeing that and I respect it, and it gives you a certain amount of awe and inspiration when you see a waterfall, or you're in some really peaceful woods, or the way that the mountains just kind of are just formed in this nice flow, and it just looks breathtaking. I love that. But I also love the human's ability to, architecture and perfect things like a gemstone that needed to be worked to see all of its luster and shine. And the way that gold just looks really beautiful when it shines a certain way, and the way that it looks off of somebody's skin complexion and stuff like that. I think that there's something to be said for both of those. And again, I don't think that it's a reason to hoard things. I don't think it's a reason to keep accumulating more and more gold, or, more and more expensive paintings or something like that. I think that it's supposed to be appreciated by everybody. So show it off. Let everybody enjoy that beauty, whether or not it's on another person, or whether or not it's in some museum or something like that, whether or not you're out in nature. So yeah, so that's what I think about that. I'm not saying become more materialistic. I think I'm making a discernment on kind of the difference between materialism and kind of your grounding place of where it's acceptable to be a little materialistic. I'm not saying go all in. I'm not saying be a product of the culture that we live in with materialism, or, you know, whatever you want to call that. That's kind of like that place where I think you can find that good in between. And I'm kind of just handing you the words to be more okay with it. And I'm not saying spend all your money out there accumulating. Or hoarding or anything like that. I think you kind of catch my drift there. So let's see. We're at about 55 minutes. I will say one more thing, and then we'll go into the close here. I'll finish it off on this one here. I wish there was a system for people like us that compensates us for our energy. More specifically, the love, the compassion, the presence. We're the ones keeping people hoping and showing up. And I'll say that much. I wish that there was a better system for us out there. I feel like the culture that we live in, when it comes to expression, when it comes to creativity, when it comes to artwork, when it comes to sharing love and all of that, I don't know if maybe I've just been in the wrong part of the world for a long time, but I feel like it's not cherished as much as it should be. I feel like there should be a system that compensates us better than it does. I understand that if you wanted to go be a preacher or a therapist or something like that, but then usually you're working for somebody else. I work for God up top. I serve him, and I'm happy to be a servant to that. But when it comes to other people, from what I found, and there are some exceptions, there are always exceptions, but by and large, most of us are just kind of used for our energy. You know, get to work, go throw some packages around, or go do something else. I need you to help me to keep my business running, that kind of stuff. And again, there's a place for that. And people are more than welcome to do that. You know, if you don't have a purpose, or you haven't found meaning or fulfillment in your life yet. And by all means, I mean, some of these big corporations, they're necessary, okay? I know that might rub some people the wrong way, but they are. Think about what Walmart does for people. It gives them a convenient service so that we can all go to one place and get all this stuff. You need people to manage that. You need people to run that. So I think people need to realize what they're doing and realize how their energy is actually impacting other people. And I know that a lot of these companies have mission statements and such. They're more fluffy, in my opinion, than anything else. You got to find the things that really help you. And sometimes you got to turn that into a hobby too for a while and just get out there and help other people, whether or not it maybe resonates with your soul and what you're doing. So I'm sure that we'll cover that more on this channel, and I'll elaborate more on that. Share some of your thoughts. Help me refine my messages here. That's what this is really all about. I'm giving you guys what I got from all these years, and I'm just sharing them with you. I want this to be an open conversation, though. So help me share this message better and refine it better so that I can write better books about it and share more on my channel here. That's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate you guys listening. For anybody that's gotten through this video this far, again, like, subscribe, share some thoughts in the comments, and be respectful. And thank you so much for being here, guys. I appreciate all of you guys, and I hope that you guys have found some value in this. Thanks a lot. I will catch you guys on the next one. See you guys there.